Well, welcome everyone to the second part of our solution series. We're lucky today to have Brad with us, who is the solution specialist from HP. As our organisation has evolved and developed over the years, for the last 10 years we've been a HPE Gold partner, which has brought with it a lot of innovative solutions and, just as importantly, a lot of really good product and solution specialists. I think the days of IT where one or two people used to be able to do everything has changed significantly. And as a channel, Trident very much relies on the intelligence of our vendors and our relationship with the vendors to come up with the right customer solution. So, Brad, welcome to the couch with Katie Bentley.
Thank you, Katie. Great to be here. Thanks for having me along.
Pleasure. Brad, the last 18 months, we all talk about it, but obviously it's been a very, very challenging time and a really interesting time with the technology that we've had to provide to our clients in health and education, and particularly around trying to find some innovations as to how they work. What I've found from a lot of the IT managers across schools and health is that their 3-year roadmap and their 3-year IT strategy had to be delivered in 6 weeks. Tell me, what is the main innovation that HP has seen in schools? Let's start with education. In schools over the last 18 months, what have been some of the key problems that we've had to address?
Yeah, it's a great question, and schools education in particular are an interesting case. So if we look at education more generally speaking, when I was in school, it'd sort of be a 9 till 3:30, and that was the school day. We're not seeing that anymore, and the message that we're getting back from IT teams within education is that it's a 24-hour operation. We've got parents wanting to log in anytime in order to see their students' reports, and as I said before, it's more of a 24-hour operation. So what we've seen is a real pivot and a drive for IT professionals within the education space to keep up with that change. HPE and Trident, together we've been working with education customers to try and help them along that journey. And some of the technologies we've got now are really at the forefront of allowing that and enabling that. So rather than having disparate server storage and backup that's managed separately, we're starting to see the evolution of organizations going for more of a hyperconverged type scenario where they're able to manage everything in a single box, giving better efficiencies and helping along. And I think that's really helped with COVID as well. So as we've seen back in March in 2020, sort of strict lockdowns within Victoria and businesses needing to move and pivot to a remote workforce, these technologies have helped with that.
If we're talking about hyperconvergence, Brad, and we had a conversation this week with Ian Foster, the business manager at Knox School, who deployed SimpliVity last year, and he was talking about how grateful he was that he had done that, so that when his organisation had to pivot with lockdown, his IT staff were actually able to concentrate on delivering what they needed to their end users, which in this case is their parents, the staff and the students. I've seen a huge growth in our Trident SimpliVity sales. Do you want to talk to me a little bit about what SimpliVity is and what it actually does?
Absolutely. And we are seeing that generally across the market is a move away from the traditional 3-tier infrastructure or architecture into something that's more efficient, easier to manage, less moving parts. So to your point or to your question, Hyperconverged is taking servers, storage, compute resources, backup, dedupe, and in a lot of cases, disaster recovery solutions or backup and recovery solutions, and condensing that down into a software-defined smaller footprint. So rather than having large amounts of storage and servers and different disparate products, we're condensing that down into an easy to manage, easy to consume appliance. In HPE's case, it's all based on, say, the DL380, world's best-selling server platform. We can deliver that through to schools like the Knox School. And now we've got the ability for one person within the IT infrastructure space to manage all of those components that it would have otherwise maybe taken a team or certainly taken a lot more time to manage. So in the Knox School's case, they're able to have a single VMware admin through a single user interface managing everything that otherwise would have been a bunch of disparate products, solutions, and services. So making IT a lot more efficient.
And so what does that mean? So I'm even seeing with my health customers that they're looking towards simplicity solutions. In fact, we're just in the midst of deploying one at an aged care home. What does it really mean to the CEO or the CFO when they deploy something like SimpliVity?
So what it means from a business perspective is many wide-reaching things. But if you look at it from a financial point of view, there's a large reduction in the physical amount of equipment that's required. So as I said before, rather than having racks and racks of equipment, we can bring that down to many cases just a couple of servers. So you're reducing the footprint, power, cooling. If you have data center costs or fees, they're also reduced quite a lot. So that's more from a cost perspective. From a resiliency perspective, we're looking at business continuity with these solutions. Gone are the days where you'd need really expensive products to orchestrate disaster recovery in the event of, say, a fire, a flood, something along those lines. We're able to deliver that natively through this technology. So a production data center and a DR, disaster recovery site, splitting that cluster across using a very small amount of IT infrastructure now gives you the same sort of capabilities that in the past you would have required hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of softwares and bespoke IT technology in order to deliver. So it's really come a long way in IT. And I think that's the sort of thing that specifically in healthcare, these organisations are benefiting from.
Brad, probably the next hot topic that people are asking about, and certainly a lot of clients across my verticals are experiencing, is ransomware. And we have this focus from business managers and CEOs on security protection. I know HP has quite a lot of solutions in this area. Do you want to talk to us about some of the interesting things you've done in this area?
Absolutely. I was reading earlier this week just some stats on where we're at globally as far as IT security and ransomware more specifically. One of the things that I read was that there's a 600% increase in targeted ransomware email attacks. This year alone, we saw the world's largest ransomware paid by an insurance company. It was about $40 million that they paid. And then in healthcare, we're seeing about 50% of the downtime is responsible to ransomware attacks. So it's here, it's rising, unfortunately. But there are things that organisations are doing in order to mitigate that. HP customers and Trident customers, like some of them that we've been working with recently, are using the inbuilt backup and recovery tools within some of our solutions. One in particular with SimpliVity, we have what we call a hyper guarantee through HPE, which guarantees we can back up or restore a 1 terabyte virtual machine in under 60 seconds. So, I mean, that sounds pretty amazing, but in real world terms, if we're looking at, say, a recent example of a school that had deployed SimpliVity, unfortunately, they were attacked with a ransomware incident. Because they were with SimpliVity, they were able to roll back to the last 10-minute full backup, and within 60 seconds, they were able to get the school back up and running. No ransomware paid, and no data lost, most importantly. So there certainly are things that customers can do today to mitigate ransomware and attacks.
I mean, that really is quite incredible because, I've been at Trident for 27 years this month, and over those years, when we had a security attack with any of our clients, the time to build it back up was just quite incredible. We'd have schools that couldn't even use the photocopier, because everything is really tied to it. We forget now about how much we rely on technology. Even at my home last week, they had an electricity outage in the street for a couple of hours. I couldn't even get my car out of the garage or lift a blind, because we're just so connected now, we probably don't realise. I know we did a really good project recently with a major hospital, 85 sites across Australia, where we had to do a network segregation project to try and just reduce that. They felt that it's not if we're going to get attacked, it's when we're going to get attacked. We're trying to reduce what occurs to our site because of that. Now, let's talk about some of the other innovations that HP has. It's always been an organisation where you come up with new things. You know, I've been involved in some of your track and trace. I've been involved in some of your sign-in software. You seem to have this team of incredibly smart people all over the world that are coming up with different innovations. What do you think the next big thing, what are your teams working on now to solve a business problem? You know, what is our problem going to be in 2 years' time?
Brilliant question, and you're right, and it always surprises and amazes me too when I jump on these calls with our worldwide teams and they explain to us some of the amazing things that our technical teams are doing. I think the big drive in our industry is now to move away from speeds and feeds and, the box dropping background that IT infrastructure organizations might have been famous for in the past. That's not good enough for the current market. And I think customers are voting with their feet, so to speak, on that front. So HPE is now looking at becoming more of a data services company. So looking at an outcome, rather than just sort of here's some technical speeds and feeds of the product itself. So to put some context around that, we're now looking at how do we deliver our services and our solutions as more of a data-centric style. So how do we have backup and recovery solutions built into it? How do we orchestrate management? How do we give organizations the ability to have data at the edge, at their core infrastructure and at the cloud, and how do they seamlessly move that data between the different disparate products or solutions they might have from HPE? So that's a massive body of work that's been undergoing at the moment, and we're a couple of years into that at the moment. We have a few new solutions which we've brought to market which absolutely deliver that, and that's here, it's available now. And I think that's the real pivot in HPE. That's from the technology side. From our financial services side, it's about how we're able to deliver that solution as easily and as seamlessly as possible. Organizations are looking for that cloud style, always up, 100% available from applications, and that's something that HPE is able to do now with our new products and solutions.
A man after my own heart, making decisions based on data. It's something that I try very hard to do, given that we now have access to so much so easily. Brad, I have never met anyone from HP who is not simply extraordinary and so knowledgeable about product sets and business problems, and you are absolutely no exception. Thank you so much. You've been absolutely terrific. We've loved our partnership with HPE over the years and feel very privileged to be part of your incredible organisation. Thank you.
We feel exactly the same. Thank you, Katie. Thanks for having me today.